I'm going to take you on a little trip of nostalgia and push you to think about your favorite memories as a child. And if you were like me, you'll probably see visuals of the streets, the parks, the markets of the place that you grew up in. So one of my most favorite recollections of growing up was around my grandparents' home in this neighborhood called Basavanagudi, in a quiet, quaint little town of Bangalore. I still vividly remember the riot of colors of the flowers in our markets, and I can still smell the mix of street food, fresh fruits, and incense sticks on those streets. The social life of my grandparents around that, there was this big tree with a little place to sit on, which is where my grandparents met with their friends and neighbors. And I'm sure all of you have nostalgia of growing up and those carefree days where you made up games and played hopscotch on the streets next to your home. This was the city that I grew up in the 90s. In the early part of this century, Bangalore was the fastest growing city in the world. We were often called the Silicon Valley of the East. But our economic success did not really translate to making our city a better place to live in. In fact, it became a much worse city to live in. A lot of the new parts of our city was built for cars and not for people. And this is the story of many emerging world cities where economic development and modernization has not necessarily led to a better quality of life for most of its citizens. We all flock to great public spaces during our vacations, but we don't know how to build them in our own communities. I often say that walking on some of our streets is almost like a life-threatening sport. In India, the #1 cause for death is road accidents. There are almost 53 road accidents every hour, and almost 1 death every 4 minutes. And this is personal for me, and I'm sure it is for many more households in our cities. I've lost an uncle, a distant relative, and more recently, my little baby cousin brother to the road. And you have to wonder why most developing world cities are not able to build something as basic as a sidewalk or a safe street. It seems like it should be common sense. But common sense is not really common. If you come into any of our cities in India, you'll be able to visualize that large part of humanity is walking. Almost 50% of our city's modal split is pedestrians, which means that 50% of people in India's cities walk as their primary mode of transit. But if you look at the budget allocations for the city, you will see that there's a very minuscule amount that is spent on pedestrian infrastructure. I often say that the quality of your street is directly proportional to the quality of your governance, democracy, and even the quality of your society at large. a street, a good street, is crucial to the agenda of a livable, walkable, healthy city. If you think about it, your ecological footprint, your health, your happiness quotient is directly embedded in the city that you live in. And I think that walkability is crucial to multiple of these agendas. If you look at ecological footprint, which is your environmental footprint, it'll be 10x higher if you lived in a place that, that was car-centric instead of walkable. And imagine your life in this place. You're going from the parking lot of your home to the parking lot of your office to the parking lot of a shopping mall to get that carton of milk. And this seems, I'm sure it'll seem unreal to people here in Europe, but that's what a lot of modern cities look like. And this is what suburban America looks like. And this is not a happy, healthy place for anybody to live in. And your chances of developing diabetes is 50% lower if you lived in a walkable city. So now the Center for Disease in America is actually pushing for walkability as a way to tackle diabetes. And we should think about trees and parks as a public health infrastructure because it dramatically improves the state of physical and mental well-being of all the people that live in those communities. In India, the state has not been able to create some of these fundamental components that make for a great place. And this is the story across a lot of the new cities that are being built across the world. So we see a happy tsunami of civic and social innovators who are trying to bridge this gap. So you have innovators who are trying to fix that park which is not working, to someone who is cleaning up our lakes, which often catches fire because of the levels of toxicity in those waters. You'll see technology that can reduce air pollution within your buildings. You'll see multiple last-mile connectivity, bike-sharing apps, to make traveling more sustainable and easier. We have the Safe City app, where women can see which parts of the city is safe for you to hang out in. And these are sparks of brilliance that can really, they really have the potential to transform and disrupt our city for better. My own experiments as a civic innovators have been around public space. I work with local businesses and developers to improve the state of public space in our communities. This is often fully funded by the private sector, and we work very closely with government to make this happen. And there are multiple, there's some of these projects which has been implemented. Many of them are still on the drawing board. And I have to say the secret sauce of success of some of these projects have been public sector heroes who've gone out of their day-to-day job description, jumped multiple hoops to help us make this happen. One of the more, I love this project. It's nice to see things being built the way we want and, to create lovable public spaces. But I have to say that one of the most frustrating and challenging things that we have to do is to work with the government. There are often multiple agencies that we have to engage with to just build a tiny piece of sidewalk. The traffic police, the utility companies, the local government agencies, corporates, it goes on. And It feels really frustrating. It feels that it's too little and too late. And it should not be so hard for citizens to contribute to making their own neighborhoods better. And I say that urbanization is the biggest trend that we are facing today, and the way we urbanize is going to define how we are going to be as a humanity. I mean, are we going to be inclusive? Will we be safe? Will we be sustainable? All of these big questions that the world faces today is going to be answered in our cities. And there are multiple things we have to do to make our cities work for us. But I think the one disruptive idea that has the potential to really transform is the idea of the civic innovation capacity of the city. Ordinary citizens coming together to fix some of the challenges that they see within those communities. We need to reimagine our governance to enable more public problem solving, to, in a way, redistribute governance in the hands of local communities. And we have to reimagine citizenship and bring alive that idea of active citizenship, where citizens can be part of problem solving. There's a quote that says that the most important political office is that of the citizen. And I'd love to see that come alive, to see citizens be a part of solving some of the challenges that we see and make the changes that we want happen in the neighborhoods that we work in. Thank you. Thank you.